By the time she said it, the apartment was already too loud for honesty. Music bled from a speaker balanced on a windowsill, bass rattling the glass like a warning. People I half knew drifted from room to room carrying drinks that weren't theirs, conversations restarting every time someone new entered the circle. I stood near the kitchen counter, smiling when appropriate, nodding when names flew past too fast to catch. This was her world. I'd been orbiting it for months. She moved through the room easily, touching shoulders, laughing at jokes before they finished, translating chaos into momentum. When she checked on me, it was quick, hand on my arm, eyes already scanning for the next thing demanding her attention. "You good?" she asked. I said yes. It was easier than explaining the fatigue that had nothing to do with the hour. The jokes kept coming, about how I was too quiet. About how I looked like I was observing instead of participating. One of her friends leaned in and said, not unkindly, "You'll get used to her pace eventually." Eventually was doing a lot of work in that sentence. Around 20:30 a.m., someone spilled a drink near my shoes. No apology, just laughter. I stepped back, wiped the floor with a paper towel, and caught my reflection in the darkened microwave door. I looked like a guest who'd overstayed. She noticed then, or maybe she'd noticed earlier and chosen not to adjust. "What's that face?" she asked, amused. "Nothing," I said. Again easier, she laughed. Tipped her head back slightly, confident in the way people are when they assume the ground beneath them won't move. "If you can't handle my world," she said, still smiling, "go home." It wasn't cruel. That's what made it decisive. There are moments when the noise drops out without actually stopping. This was one of them. I felt something settle, an internal rearranging, quiet and precise, not anger, not hurt, recognition. I smiled back, not performative, not brittle, just calm. "All right," I said. She blinked once, surprised by how quickly I agreed. Then someone called her name from the living room, and she turned away, already absorbed back into motion. I stood there for another minute, long enough to be sure I wasn't leaving out of spite. Then I went to the bedroom, closed the door gently, and packed. I moved slowly, deliberately. Folded the shirt I'd worn, placed it on top. Checked the charger, the watch, the book I'd brought and never opened. The clock read 3:58 when I zipped the bag. I didn't wake her, I didn't write a note. This wasn't a message, it was an exit. Outside, the city was still awake but thinning out, like a party after the goodbyes start to matter. I walked the 3 blocks to my car, the night air cool and steady. When I sat behind the wheel, I let myself breathe fully for the first time in hours. Driving at that hour has a particular honesty. Traffic lights cycle for no one. Streets don't perform. You either know where you're going or you don't. I went home. Morning arrived without drama. Coffee, shower, emails. I turned my phone face down on the desk, not to be dramatic, just to keep my attention where it belonged. There was a meeting at 10. A deadline at noon. I work in communications, the unglamorous side of it, the part where facts matter more than tone and timing is everything. My name rarely appears in print. But my fingerprints do. That morning, something I'd been working on for months was scheduled to go live. At 9:07 my phone vibrated once. I didn't look. At 9:15 it vibrated again. At 9:30 the headline published. It wasn't sensational. That was the point. Clean language. Verifiable details. A decision finalized after weeks of review. The kind of announcement that shifts landscapes quietly and permanently. By 9:32 my phone was lit up. Her name appeared first, then mutuals, then numbers I didn't recognize. I let it sit. I attended the meeting. I spoke when needed, listened more than I talked. My team was focused, professional. Someone sent a private message, "Nice work. This is going to ripple." At 111, I finally picked up the phone. Her text wasn't accusatory. It was confused. "Is this real?" I replied with one sentence. "Yes." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Why didn't you tell me?" I read that twice. Not "congratulations." Not "I'm proud of you." Just confusion that I hadn't narrated my own life loudly enough. I typed, then deleted, typed again. You told me to go home, I wrote. But so I did. There was a pause long enough to feel intentional. I didn't mean it like that, she sent. You know that. I did know what she'd meant. She'd meant the rules were already set, and adaptation was my responsibility. I set the phone down again. When she woke up that morning, she woke up to messages. Screenshots. Someone tagging her under the headline with a shocked emoji. Someone else asking why she hadn't mentioned it. Her world, which had felt self-contained and secure the night before, had shifted slightly off-center. Not because I left. Because the absence had weight. She called at noon, I didn't answer. Not to punish her. I just wasn't ready to fill the silence she'd created. By late afternoon, the messages softened. I should have taken you seriously. I didn't realize. Can we talk? That was the first one I considered without irritation. We met 2 days later, in a quiet cafe that closed early. She arrived before me, phone face down on the table, posture unfamiliar, less expansive, more contained. I owe you an apology, she said, immediately. Credit where it was due. I nodded. I didn't rush to absolve her. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she continued. I thought you'd argue. Or push back. I didn't want to argue, I said. I wanted to listen. She frowned slightly. To what? To what I needed, I said. And to what you were telling me without meaning to. We sat with that. She asked about the headline. About the work. About why I hadn't told her what was coming. I didn't feel like I needed to prove anything, I said. And I didn't feel like I had space to talk about it. That landed harder than anything else I could have said. I didn't mean to make you feel small, she said. I know, I replied, and I meant that too. Intent and impact don't always share an address. We talked for an hour. Not dramatically. No ultimatums. Just facts and feelings laid out carefully, like fragile items being inspected before a move. When we stood to leave, nothing was resolved. That mattered. I don't want to lose you, she said finally. I'm not lost, I said. I just won't disappear to fit. She nodded. Whether she understood or not was something time would handle. That night, alone in my apartment, I reread the headline once. Not for validation. Just to remind myself that walking away doesn't always look like defeat. Sometimes it looks like alignment. I didn't feel victorious. I felt intact. Some doors close loudly. Others swing shut behind you without comment, and only later do you notice how much quieter the room is. I slept well.